How guilty could a young woman be for not knowing how to parallel park? When Judge Frank Caprio asked himself this question, he couldn't realize that the answer would be far more complex than he ever expected. Sarah Martinez's file contained only a traffic violation, but the real story was hidden in the folded soldier's letter in her pocket, the memorial flag in her car, and the irreplaceable loss in her eyes. The large courtroom of Providence Municipal Court was bustling as usual. That Tuesday morning, daily traffic violations, minor crimes, and municipal infractions. Judge Frank Caprio had been dispensing justice within this routine for 30 years, but no case was truly routine. Behind every file was a human being, a story, a life. It was early morning, and Caprio was reviewing the cases he would see during the day while sipping his coffee. Most were simple traffic violations, parking tickets, minor offenses. Among them was the file Sarah Martinez, parallel parking violation. At that moment, he had no idea how this file would affect his life. Case number 4587, State versus Sarah Martinez. The clerk's voice broke the silence of the courtroom. Sarah Martinez was a 28-year-old woman with brown hair falling to her shoulders and a pale complexion. The black dress she wore looked clean but old, as if it had been saved for special occasions. But now none of those days seemed special anymore. When she stood up, her hands trembled slightly. She clutched tightly to the folded papers she held. In her purse. Frank Caprio adjusted his glasses and opened the file. His 30 years of experience had taught him to read the expressions on people's faces. What he saw on Sarah's face wasn't just legal concern, but a deeper pain. Ms. Martinez, you were issued a $50 citation on October 15, 2023 for a parallel parking violation in front of Veterans Hospital. Is this correct? Sarah nodded. Yes, Your Honor. Her voice was hoarse and trembling. Well, is there anything you'd like to say about this? Caprio's voice was patient and understanding as always. He had learned over the years that the most important details were usually hidden, not in official documents, but in the stories people wanted to tell. Sarah's eyes welled up. She took a folded paper from her pocket and gripped it tightly. This paper was the last letter from her husband, which she had carried with her everywhere for the past 18 months. Your Honor, I never learned how to parallel park. A slight murmur rose from the courtroom. Some people smiled. This seemed like a fairly ordinary excuse. But Frank Caprio had noticed the expression on Sarah's face. This wasn't an excuse, but the expression of a deeper pain. I see, Caprio said patiently. And why didn't you learn? You must have passed your driving test. Sarah's voice became hoarse. My husband was going to teach me. Michael always said, don't worry, Sarah, when I come back, I'll teach you parallel parking in the most beautiful way. Her voice began to tremble. He used a joke. You're my princess. Princesses don't parallel park, but if you want to learn, I'm the best teacher. Frank Caprio put down his pen. The experienced judge sensed where such stories were heading, but there was a different weight to Sarah's story. Where's your husband, Ms. Martinez? Sarah unfolded the paper in her hand. It was an official letter from the U.S. Department of Defense, that all too familiar envelope. Sergeant Michael Martinez was killed in action while serving in Helmand Province, Afghanistan, 18 months ago. The courtroom suddenly fell silent. The silence was not just one of respect, but also the silence of a moment that everyone experienced within themselves. Frank Caprio had experienced such moments so many times that he could immediately feel the weight of grief. I'm very sorry, Caprio said sincerely. Simple words, but they came from his heart. How old was your husband? 30. Sarah's voice broke into sobs. It was our 3rd year of marriage. We didn't have children yet. We were planning to have a child when Michael returned. He didn't leave saying he would never come back again. I'll be back in a few months and teach you parallel parking. You are my pride, Sarah. Nothing will happen to you, he had said. Frank Caprio stood up and offered Sarah a glass of water. Over the years, he had seen how such gestures gave people strength. Please sit down and have some water. Sarah accepted the water but didn't sit down. She felt she needed to stand, as if she needed to stand tall for Michael's memory. Your Honor, there's something I want you to know. this isn't just about parallel parking. Of course, I'm listening. Caprio sat back down, but was completely focused on Sarah. That day, the day I got the ticket, I was at Veterans Hospital. I was going to pick up the flag that was given for Michael's funeral ceremony. Sarah's voice began to strengthen. I had been able to gather my courage after 18 months. Taking that flag meant accepting that he really wasn't coming back. Sarah paused and took a deep breath. You know, when Michael died, the first thing I was told was there's a flag ceremony. Will you take the flag? I said no that day, because the moment I took that flag, I would have accepted that Michael was really gone. The silence in the courtroom deepened even more. People were listening to every word Sarah said, but home doesn't feel like a home anymore, so I had to take that flag. Michael's mother also said, "It's time now, Sarah. Michael would want you to be strong." But because I couldn't parallel park in the parking spaces in front of the hospital, I parked in the handicapped space. Sarah's voice began to strengthen. I know parking in a handicapped space is wrong, but at that moment I faced the reality that Michael wasn't there. Who would teach me parallel parking now? Who would laugh and say, slowly, "Sarah, be patient"? Who would put their hand on my shoulder and say, "It doesn't work the first time, try again"? Frank Caprio leaned against the edge of his desk. His 30 years of experience told him that this case was special. This wasn't just a parking ticket, but a woman's struggle to hold on to life again. Ms. Martinez, did you take that flag? Yes, I did. Sarah wiped her eyes, and at that moment, I experienced a feeling I had never felt in my life. While holding that flag, I heard Michael's voice. "Sarah, you are a strong woman. This is just a beginning," he was saying, but at the same time, I felt the coldness of that flag. Michael was no longer there with his warmth. Asterisk, where is that flag now? On the front windshield of the car. The same flag that covered Michael's coffin. Sarah gathered her voice. But every morning when I see that flag, I also remember this ticket I got for not being able to parallel park. And this is a painful reminder that Michael is not here. It's like saying every day, you still haven't learned. He's still not here. The silence in the courtroom was so intense that even the sound of the air conditioning could be heard. Frank Caprio didn't take his eyes off Sarah. Double quotes Ms. Martinez, "Where are you living now?" With Michael's mother, "I haven't been able to find a house for myself yet. Michael's salary was cut off and I work part-time. I'm getting help for veterans, but this process is very long. Also, our home was filled with too many memories. Michael's coffee cup, his favorite chair, the photos we bought together. Everything reminded me of him." "Where do you work?" "At a child care center, part-time. The children remind me of Michael sometimes. He loved children very much too. When I come back, we'll have our own children," he used to say. But now I'm taking care of other people's children, and every day I remember that Michael isn't here. And how do you get around now with Michael's car? This is my only connection to him. The car still smells like him. The CDs on the dashboard are his favorite music. But because I can't parallel park, I always look for big parking lots. That's why I'm sometimes late for my appointments, late for work. Sarah's voice was trembling, but more determined. "Last week, I was late for my doctor's appointment because I couldn't find a parking space in front of the hospital. If Michael were here, he would drop me off and park the car." Frank Caprio closed the file and walked toward Sarah. "Ms. Martinez, your husband was going to teach you parallel parking, but unfortunately, that opportunity was taken from us. What if we found another way to teach you this?" Sarah looked surprised. "What do you mean, Your Honor?" "This court security officer, retired police officer Robert Chen. He volunteers to teach young drivers how to drive. He's also a veteran himself, Vietnam War veteran. Do you think he could teach you parallel parking?" The courtroom echoed with light applause. Sarah's eyes lit up with hope. "Really? Would you really do this?" "But I can't make payment right now." Frank Caprio smiled. "We're not talking about payment. This is our debt as a community to a veteran family." Sarah could no longer hold back her tears. "Your Honor, this is what Michael would want. He always said, people are here to help each other. You will help someone else one day too. But I haven't been able to help anyone so far. You're helping my heart right now," Caprio said. "Your husband was right. Robert, please come forward." The court security officer, a kind-looking Asian American man in his 50s, stepped forward. Robert Chen had fought in Vietnam and worked as a police officer for many years after returning. He now knew in his retirement how happy teaching young people to drive made him. "Of course, Your Honor, Ms. Martinez, are you available this weekend?" Sarah nodded excitedly. Yes, I'm available. But I'm very scared. What if I can't learn? What if Michael would be disappointed?" Robert approached and gently touched Sarah's shoulder. "Ms. Martinez, when I returned from Vietnam, I had to learn many things too. My wife taught me everything again at that time. Now it's my turn. Michael would be proud of you, and I would be proud to help you in his name." "Perfect. Sunday morning, we'll start in an empty parking lot. Slowly, patiently, just as your husband planned to show you." Frank Caprio returned to his seat. "Ms. Martinez, before I close this case, there's one more thing. This court wants to honor your husband's service. Michael's sacrifice is something we all owe, not just you." Caprio took out one of the special files from his desk. "On behalf of the city of Providence, we want to support you as Sergeant Michael Martinez's family. Your special veterans parking permit has been prepared. Now when you need to parallel park, you can use special parking spaces. Also, the city's Veterans Support Center will contact you. There are other families in your situation there. Maybe meeting them would be good for you." Sarah was crying now, but these were tears of joy. "Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you." Michael always said, "The world is full of good people, Sarah. You just need to find them. You are one of those good people. It's our duty to thank you, Ms. Martinez, for the sacrifice of you and your husband." Frank Caprio struck his gavel. "This case is closed. The citation is dismissed. And Mr. Robert Chen, please report to me on how the driving training goes." The courtroom began to applaud, standing up. Sarah, looking at the understanding and support she saw on the faces of the people behind her, felt for the first time in 18 months that she was not really alone. After the court session, while Sarah was talking with Robert Chen, Frank Caprio watched them. This case had reminded him once again that justice was not just about punishment, but about healing wounds and creating hope. That evening, Sarah called Michael's mother. "Mom, I saw an angel in court today, Judge Frank Caprio and Robert Chen. They acted with Michael's spirit." Michael's mother, Maria Martinez, was crying on the phone. "Sarah, Michael always said, the world closes doors on us but opens windows. Today a window opened for you." That night, Sarah sat in front of Michael's photograph. "Michael, tomorrow I'm starting to learn parallel parking. I'm sorry I couldn't learn it with you, but now someone will help me. And I know you're still with me. I see you in the car mirror every morning." Sunday morning, in an empty parking lot, Robert Chen was patiently showing Sarah the basic techniques. "Slowly, Sarah, we're not in a hurry. Your husband would be this patient too, wouldn't he?" Sarah smiled, a real smile for the first time in a long time. Yes, he was very patient. When Michael taught anything, he always said, "Rushing means making mistakes. Patience is success." He was right. Now focus on the mirror. Slowly reverse. The first attempt ended in failure. Sarah was disappointed. "I can't do it. I can't do it." Robert stopped and looked at Sarah. "Sarah, when I was learning to drive a tank in Vietnam, I crashed into the tank on the first day. But then I became the best tank operator. Everything is learned with patience. But if Michael were here, Michael is here now, Sarah. He's in your heart, and he wants you to succeed. Let's try once more." The second attempt was a bit better. On the third, Sarah was able to get half the car into the parking space. Robert applauded. "Great. Michael is proud of you right now." 2 weeks later, Sarah could parallel park perfectly. But more importantly, her self-confidence had returned. 3 weeks later, Sarah brought a thank you letter to the court. Frank Caprio read the letter aloud. "Dear Judge Caprio, I don't know how to thank you. I didn't just learn parallel parking. I also learned how to stay strong in life. Robert Chen wasn't just a teacher, he became a friend. Thanks to the people I met in the Veterans Support Group, I'm no longer alone. Through Michael's memory, I'm looking for ways to help other people. I've already joined a volunteer group that supports veteran families. Michael was right. People are here to help each other, and you reminded me of this. With love, Sarah Martinez. When Frank Caprio finished the letter, his eyes were teary. He had been a judge for 30 years, but Sarah's story had taught him something different. Justice was not just about following rules, but about improving people's lives. A year later, another letter came from Sarah. This time, it was different. News: Sarah had founded a non-profit organization supporting veteran families. Its name, Michael's Bridge, the Bridge Building Project. The letter read, "Dear Judge, through this organization I founded in Michael's name, we have helped more than 200 veteran families so far. Parallel parking lessons, job search support, childcare assistance, psychological support. Everything started that day in your courtroom. Michael's spirit continues to live through your understanding of justice." When Frank Caprio read this letter, this thought crossed his mind. Sometimes the most beautiful way to provide justice is to give people hope. This is a story that started with a parking ticket and continued with a movement that touched the lives of thousands of people. Sarah Martinez was no longer just Michael's wife, but a strong woman on her own and a pioneer of social change. And every time she parallel parked, she proudly kept Michael's memory alive. Because sometimes life gives us the greatest lessons through the smallest moments. And true justice is about healing rather than punishing. The decision Frank Caprio made that day not only changed one woman's life, but became a beacon of hope for hundreds of families. And Michael Martinez's spirit continued to live in the lives of many people through the bridge his wife built.